Welcome back. I like saying that because it feels like I have a talk show.
Yes.
Yes. Today we have a very special guest, Meg Burton.
Hi.
She is the, get this, founder of the SoCal chapter of Project Heal. So today we kind of wanted to focus this interview on how to advocate for yourself if you're looking to get treatment. So can you tell us a little about your journey? Because I know it was freaking hell and back to get treatment for yourself.
Yeah. I started treatment when I was pretty young. I was a freshman in high school. I was in treatment from my freshman year in high school till really like my senior year, but it was only outpatient until I would get sick enough to basically have to be in the medical hospital. That was the only time in which they would allow me a higher level of care.
So frustrating.
And then they would only give me 2 weeks of inpatient, and that was it. And then they would drop me down to outpatient. So that was it. And it wasn't even an eating disorder inpatient. It was a psychiatric ward that had like an eating disorder program. I mean, I was mixed with a bunch of different kids. But when you're a kid, like there's not much advocating you can do. You know, I do remember trying to ask my therapist, like, I think I need to go somewhere, and she shot that down real fast.
Why?
I have no idea, but it just made me feel like really ashamed and like shameful and embarrassed. So yeah, you know, I was just in high school and it was just like, I couldn't do too much. And then, you know, my senior year of high school, I started doing well. But the reason why I started doing well was because I had to find free resources in my area, which didn't really exist. There was one free support group, which like, thank God it was there. And then I had to like create something that worked for me. So I found a mentor. So I found somebody who had recovered from an eating disorder. And then I also found a nonprofit that was in the Bay Area. And we went around to middle schools and high schools throughout the Bay Area doing a presentation to try and raise awareness about eating disorders. So we did that, but then the group of people I did it with, they were like this amazing group of women who all were doing well in recovery and wanted to do better. So it was the first time that I was really surrounded by like a group of women like that and really had this support. So I had to make my own treatment essentially.
How did you find the motivation to do that? I know, like,
I don't know.
Yeah, because not only is it like incredibly hard to admit to yourself that you have a problem, then when the healthcare system is failing you so consistently, how do you find the strength within yourself to continue to fight?
One thing that was different with my eating disorder is I definitely felt like I always knew it was an issue. Like I was pretty aware, even when my eating disorder started, like what I was doing. I don't know, at a certain point I just got sick and tired of it, but I couldn't really stop. So it was like, I think for a lot of people at a certain point in their recovery, when they actually want to recover, there's then like many years ahead of that where it's just like the ambivalence of like, okay, like I want to get better, but like I really don't though. So it was a lot of that. And I don't really know. I don't know. Like, I'm glad it was in me. I don't know where it came from.
Yeah.
But yeah, so then that really helped me recover. Or well, you know, do well in recovery. But because I had never actually gotten treatment, I was able to get my behaviors under control to a certain point. I definitely still had disordered eating, but like I stopped binging and purging. I felt more free with food. And then I moved down here for college. I went to Cal State Fullerton. And so as soon as I got there, I'm like, okay, transitions are a hard time. And usually people relapse. So I was like, I don't want to relapse. And I went to the counseling center and they just straight up said that they didn't deal with eating disorders. I was like, are you joking?
What?
Yeah, because Cal State Fullerton, it's the biggest Cal State and there are only 2 UCs that are bigger than us. Plus it's in Orange County. And I was just like, really, guys? Really? Like, that's great. Then I was just floundering, essentially. I was like, well, if nothing's here, then I'm going to start something myself. That's where Project Heal came in, which we'll talk about later.
Yeah.
But then the real point in which I had to advocate for myself was when I relapsed in college. And so what happened when I was in treatment was we figured out, it was almost like I was like a dry drunk. Yeah. I wasn't using behaviors, but all the thoughts were the same. That and then just various things that happened in my life at that period of time just basically triggered a relapse to happen. And so I knew that my insurance didn't cover residential because at that time it just didn't at all. I was like, okay, well, I know some treatment centers do kind of like secretly have their own scholarships. So I was like, I'll just email and like ask. ask. And when I did that, I found out that there was a treatment center here in Southern California that did have a contract with my insurance company. And that's where the saga begins. Because basically I went back to them. I'm like, oh, great. Like, you guys have this contract. And the head of the eating disorder program at that particular Kaiser was like, no, we don't. And I was like, what'd you do? It took them, it's been so long, I can't remember how long it took, but it was like a month and a half to 2 months for them to figure out that they had a contract. So once they figured that out, then they were like, well, we need you to do outpatient with us. And I was like, I'm doing outpatient already. I'm not doing it with you because I don't like you guys. So then I needed to do another 4 weeks of outpatient with them. So basically this whole thing was like a 3-month span of like, I needed to go to residential right at that beginning. And I got really sick. Like, I got very sick. I was throwing up blood, like I was losing a lot of weight, and like, you know, there just was like no medical attention, and just like, well, this is like what's happening. So eventually what happened is they did not authorize residential, but then they authorized inpatient, which is silly. So I went there eventually. I wasn't happy about it, but I got there and I was like, okay, this program is actually cool. I got 2 weeks and they dropped me.
This is just so ridiculous. Eating disorders have the highest mortality rate of all mental illness. 1/10 of the population suffers.
Yeah.
You could have died any point during this.
Yeah. Seriously. Then they gave me 2 weeks of partial, and after the 2 weeks of partial, they dropped me completely. Nothing. Because they supposedly had an IOP program, which they don't.
Yeah.
It's interesting. Now that I'm doing better, I actually kind of forget a lot about how bad it was. But one of the things I really don't forget is when I got dropped from partial and I was home and I didn't want to kill myself, but like I wanted to die.
Yeah.
Like I had like a loft bed and like a little desk underneath, and I was just like laying underneath the bed desk thing, and like, you know, I couldn't even do anything. Like, I couldn't watch Netflix. I couldn't breathe. Like, I didn't want to be alive. All I knew is that like I needed to get back into treatment, and that like I had 7 years of pent up anger against Kaiser, and I was like about to kick their ass. So, I mean, luckily, because I do this work in the field, I know more than other people do about like how you can legally go about fighting an insurance company. So, Lisa Cantor, I think she's like the only lawyer who does like eating disorder cases. So basically what Lisa Cantor does, she's a lawyer and she fights the insurance companies. I don't think anybody else does that. Lisa has like a lot of really great information on her website, and she has like a lot of videos of like, this is exactly what you need to do.
Oh, amazing.
Cantor and Cantor, they're amazing. Yes, we honored her last year at the gala. So I like, you know, watched her videos. I looked at the website. I'm like, okay, this is what I gotta do. Honestly, Kaiser made it easy for me. They did so much bad stuff, just bad, very bad. Leanna from Project Heal gave me the resource of basically writing a complaint to the State Department of Managed Healthcare. So basically, before you try and get a lawyer, the best thing to do is to go through your state management of healthcare. You go online, you file a grievance, you file a complaint, and then you have like a lot of extra documents that go with it. So I made a 7-page letter of complaints, very detailed. I had specific dates and times of calls, and then I also had medical records of everything dating back from when I was in high school. And then I also had my therapist write a letter, and maybe people at the hospital, my treatment center writing letters. So I had like I had a shit ton to give to them. It went back to Kaiser because it has to go through Kaiser first. And basically I had a 10-minute conference call with like a panel of doctors. So, you know, I didn't see their faces. It was just 10 minutes me on the phone stating my case. I talked the full 10 minutes and I'm like, there's no way they can deny me. Like, cause I wasn't even asking for inpatient or residential. I was asking for partial. And they denied me. And I was just like, I can't do this anymore. Like, there's nothing left in me. I don't understand why this isn't working. But luckily, that went back to the State Department of Managed Healthcare, and they overturned Kaiser. And I got like the best letter of my life ever in the mail. Like, it was amazing.
Yeah.
And so also during this time where I was like fighting Kaiser and like not in treatment, I was able to get like a super small scholarship from another treatment scholarship fund called Moonshadow Spirit. And basically it allowed me to at least go to IOP 3 days a week for, I think I had like 10 days of IOP.
And IOP means intensive outpatient. So you're doing like half days in the clinic, right?
Yeah, it's like 4 hours.
4 hours.
4 hours a day.
Yeah.
One meal. So it's like
not enough to really, but it's enough to maybe die.
Essentially, like it's what held me over while I was fighting with Kaiser. And honestly, I think like when you are doing all of that fighting, having somebody give you a scholarship and believe in you is just like the best thing that could have happened. I mean, just them giving me that scholarship was just like that little bit of hope I needed to also keep going. So yeah, basically like one of my big passions in life is just like fighting insurance companies.
We need people like you doing it, because this journey that you're describing is horrific.
Yeah.
That you can be in a place because it takes so much will to decide to get better, that you can be in that place and be fighting for your life literally every single day, fighting legally, and have all of this shit thrown at you.
Yeah, it's insane. I mean, when I was in treatment, it was the same case for most people. Like, most people were getting cut. Like, I think that the saddest times when people get cut is when they're an inpatient or residential and they're literally told, like, you know, it's maybe 12 o'clock or 2 o'clock in the afternoon, and they're like, you have to leave today. You need to pack your bags and go home. Like, what the fuck?
Yeah.
Like, it's just crazy.
Then what? You've done all of this work.
Yeah.
You've opened up your wounds. You've taken risks and changed behaviors, and you're raw. And then you're just kicked out. And how the hell are you supposed to?
It's a shit show.
I mean, it's criminal.
Yeah, it is. It really is.
Yeah.
And then also just on the insurance company's end, you know, they're losing a shit ton of money, because if they don't get the full amount of time they need to get better, they're going to relapse and they're going to have to go back and they're going to have to pay more money. So the whole system doesn't make sense.
It's like our whole country just treating symptoms, no preventative care.
Yeah, exactly.
Okay, cheer us up. Tell us about Project Heal.
Okay.
This is so overwhelmingly terrible.
So this is why I got involved with Project Heal.
Yeah.
So, okay, like I said, if we back up my story, when I was at Cal State Fullerton, I'm like, okay, well, there's nothing here, so guess I'm gonna start something of my own. And I was kind of like, I was trying to find an organization that would be a good fit to try and like set something up on campus. I found one, it didn't really work out, and then I found Project Heal, and I was like, oh, what? This is literally like the most perfect thing ever. So I started off as their PR intern, and then eventually turned into like founding the chapter. So it's the perfect match, because our main goal is, or like our main mission is to fundraise money to send people to treatment. It's just been incredible working with them for 5 years now, because the amount of growth that has happened is astronomical. That's our main mission, but now we're extending our mission to do essentially what helped me in recovery, which is so great, because we are starting communities of healing, which you're doing.
Which I'm doing.
Anybody want a mentor? So we're training mentors through a training that Carolyn Costin created.
And Carolyn Costin is amazing. She's like one of the OG.
Yeah, she's like a celebrity in the field,
Yes.
like a Sigmund Freud of eating disorders.
She really is. She's such a badass. She has a bunch of books.
Yeah.
I recommend the 8 Keys.
Recovery.
Keys in Recovery. Look it up. It's really useful. If you have no other resources to help you get on track, use that book as a guide.
Yeah, it's good.
Yeah.
So training the mentors, matching mentees with mentors, and then also creating free support groups for people to come to, because one of the things in the eating disorder field is we've made a lot of strides, especially with Obamacare. Obamacare has helped insurance cover a lot more stuff.
You hear that? Obamacare has helped a lot.
That's how I got my treatment covered.
Let's take a moment to just put a picture of Obama up here. Yes. Full 5 minutes of his glorious face. Yes.
That was a good pausing point, though. In the eating disorder field, yes, we're making strides with treatment. Things are starting to get a little bit more covered, which is fabulous. However, yes, people may be able to get treatment a tad bit easier now, but they still leave and there's like no resources. I mean, in the AA field, you can go to an AA meeting pretty much anywhere in the United States.
Almost at any time, especially in LA, it's like any time of day.
Oh,
if you need a meeting, you can find a meeting.
Any time of day, any place you're in. I'm sure even in rural areas of the United States that like you can get an AA meeting pretty easily.
Yeah.
For eating disorders, that does not exist. Even in big places like LA, like there's some free support groups, but I mean, a lot of groups you need to pay for, and there's already a financial burden because you're sick.
Yeah.
Yeah, the fact that we're having a free support group that's peer-led, it's basically what the experience I had with Beyond Hunger. And now I get to like help make it. It's so great. I think one of the really cool things about Project Heal is I'd say within the past 5 to 8 years, I guess maybe 10, is when like being fully recovered has become like an actual thing. Because like in the AA world, that's not a thing.
Right. Yeah.
Yeah, and so, I mean, that's one of the things that's different with eating disorders.
You have to deal with food every day.
Yeah.
You have to.
I mean, basically, it's just like whatever works for you. Like, if you feel like you need to say, like, I'm in recovery and that's what works for you, like, that's cool. But, like, Project Heal believes you can be fully recovered. And I feel like there have been people before us, for sure. Like, Carolyn was the OG in this. Like, Carolyn was the OG in, like, people could be fully recovered, guys. And then after Carolyn, there's Jenny Schaefer. And then after Jenny, you know, there's a few other people. And then here comes Project Heal. And, like, I feel like we are at the forefront of, like, look at all of us. Like, all of us are, like, recovered. Like, this is not a fluke thing. Like, you can have an actual life.
Yes.
That just is what makes us awesome.
Yeah, absolutely. So how can people apply for grants?
Okay, so the grant process, it kind of changes a little bit. Like sometimes we have it quarterly, but I don't really know. So, but you go on the website, okay? You go onto www.theprojectheal.org and it's pretty easy to find the application.
Okay.
So it's an application and there's like a few different rounds, but you do your initial application and then you will hear back. And it says on the website, like when the applications are due and when they will hear back by.
Got it.
Yeah, so it's laid out very well.
What has been the best part of your recovered life?
Switzerland.
Great.
I might cry.
Yeah, that's okay.
I don't, so I work at TASIS, the American School in Switzerland, over the summers. And I feel like every summer just is like, it shows me like, this is what life is. And this is not like what I missed, but what if I didn't choose recovery, this is what I would be missing. And it has also helped my recovery. Like when I am in therapy, I'm having a hard time, my therapist brings me into like my safe space. And that's Switzerland for me. And I think one of the funniest, most ironic things that happened was me imagining myself at Denobili in TASIS, which is our like cafeteria. And that's like where I feel the most safe and like loved, and that's hilarious because that was not ever my life. And that's where like some of my best moments of the summer are. And I can eat there and I can like feel really good about my body there. And I just like am so present. And yeah, that's my favorite thing about recovery.
What would you tell baby Meg, who's at the very beginning of her eating disorder journey?
Oh God, I don't know a lot. I don't know. I mean, I feel like there's a lot of things I would want to tell her, but I feel like what she needed was just like a hug and love and like to be like seen. So yeah.
Awesome. Thank you so much
for
talking with us.
Thanks, Angela.
Oh my God. And thank you for all of the amazing advocacy work that you're doing. It's been so incredible to get to know you through all of this, and it's incredible work.
And Binge is fucking awesome. And we're going to Lady Gaga together.
We're going to Lady Gaga together.
So I'm really excited about
that.
Thanks.
Thanks, guys.
It's a small audience.
Yeah.